Hey everybody, Greg here. I'm going to be right back. I'm just finishing up a couple of things, and then we'll get started with the stream, so hang out for just a sec. Okay, hey everybody, Craig here. I am just getting ready to get started. I am going to start by pulling up the edit here. There we go. Okay, so as we get started, I'm going to let you have a look at the screen that I'm working with here. Okay, before we do that, the obligatory blast to let everyone know that I am now live. Okay. So, first thing I need to do is title this freaking episode. So, I'm going to come over here and find out what number this even is. 236 is up next. So, let's see. 236. Ender's Game. Author's Shelf featuring David Farland. Okay, hello Cosmere Podcast. Let's see. My guest episode on my podcast will be out on Saturday. All right, finally. So that was the end of Well of Ascension. Yes. Good. Looking forward to that. Make sure you shoot me an email or tweet at me or something and let me know when it is finally live so I can listen to how foolish I sounded. As if I didn't do that on a weekly basis anyway. Okay. So right now I'm just finishing up, putting in the metadata here, episode 236 by the Legendary Podcast. If I do this, then when you're listening in your car, if you have one of those really nifty little Bluetooth things, it'll tell you what it is that you're listening to without you having to look at your phone. All right. Now, got a few tracks here. I'm on top, and then I believe it's Ryan and then Ken. Yep, so Ryan is track 2, Ken is track 3, and David Farland is track number 4. I was a little concerned that he was coming in kind of quiet while we were recording, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is hop in here and just amplify that a little bit. Not much. About 3 decibels. That should be plenty. Okay, so now he kind of matches us a little bit more closely. Let's test it out. Here's Ryan. And yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see here. Cosmere Podcast. This is Adobe Audition. I used to use Audacity, which is really good, especially considering it's free. But one thing that Audacity doesn't do very well is this multi-track system. It can, but the hardware playing with the software isn't always as smooth as it is with Adobe Audition, which, for all I know, is now freezing on me. Fantastic. Let's see. Can't hear the audio. Oh, okay. How about if I unmute it, then maybe you can hear the audio that I'm editing. Sorry about that, Jeremy. Tell me if you can hear this, Jeremy. You were around at that point, and you were kind of... Okay. So hopefully that will come through this time. Sorry about that. Perfect. All right. He says loud and clear. 2 cracks. Oh, no. That's not what we need. Okay. So now that I've got this in here, and now I've got it all multi-tracked, and what this allows me to do is to go into, like, say I want to manipulate just my track or somebody else's. If there's, maybe this is like a lip smack or something, let's find out what this little piece of audio is right here that I made.
Version back in 1979. It came out from Analog. A friend gave it to me, and
okay, so that's probably nothing
out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second.
Okay, so I said yeah here. I probably would want to keep that. I don't usually edit those out, but if I wanted to, I can come in here and just pull that down so you can't hear me say yeah, and that's what a multi-track like this allows me to do. So I'm gonna leave it there for now, but so it allows me to manipulate just a single track without doing all of them at the same time. But now that I've got them all synced up, I'm actually gonna grab all these and group them together so that if I make an edit on one, at least time-wise, then it makes an edit on all of them. So next step is to find the beginning of this shindig, probably close to the front. And everybody...
There's a space. There's a space.
All right, that's enough. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. There we go. Okay, so... Oops. All right. So I've got my front end. Now we need to find the back, and that should be this last marker here. All the rest of this stuff afterwards is when we got a chance to just chat with Dave a little bit after the episode, but you guys don't get to hear that. Sorry. Leave that mark, and let's just make sure this is the end. We will see you next time. Yes, it is. Okay, good. So I've got my front, I've got my back, and now I need to see, is there a clip that I can pull forward, kind of that... sometimes goofy, sometimes notable clip that I put at the beginning of an episode. And what I'm going to do, oftentimes we'll look for something funny. I want people to be engaged right away. And so we look for laugh lines. Laugh lines on your face is one thing, but laugh lines in audio is something else. And when I find them, I will tell you. Let's see, I might widen this out just a little. I hadn't actually heard about. Okay, so right here, down at this this bottom part, you can see where there's a really choppy bunch of audio signals right there. And so I'm betting that's Dave laughing.
Yeah.
That's
Good. Okay, so what did we say here?
Dave Farland. Do you have any other amazing stories to tell?
Yeah.
'Cause-
Oh, man. You guys, his stories were really something.
You don't say. Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, as I recall, now you're asking me to remember something that I
Let's see. So that one might do, what was that, about 30 minutes in? Gross protuberance. Yeah, if only we had another gross protuberance moment in this episode. The thing about these author shelves,
Because you
You could just do a different book.
theoretically.
with the author shelf, you know, this is a pretty big name author in this case. Obviously, with Sanderson, that was the case. This isn't somebody that we sit down with normally, and so we don't have the rapport with them that we do with each other. And even when Jack comes on, Jack is younger, is less established than some of these authors. And so, you know, he can say something like gross protuberance and we all just kind of laugh along. So we don't know quite how far to push it with somebody like Dave Farland. And so we tend to kind of back off on the jokes and all that stuff, and just get to the material. But there's usually a few things in there.
That
Ender could fall to be.
Yeah, that could have been Ender, basically.
But yeah, no, I think
But-
you're
but
on
that's
an
what it's
interesting
at.
track where, you know, if he went
Okay,
with
here's
Peter-
some laugh lines.
and actually change the world intelligently on the internet and actually change.
Oh, okay, I
talk
like
to
this one.
people. The idea that you could.
Okay, how about this right
The
here?
idea that you could talk to people intelligently on the internet and actually change the world. I don't know. It just seems so, you know, pre 2016 or something.
Pre-Twitter, yeah. Let's just say it.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
Okay, so that might be a little long, but we can play with that and trim it down. Okay, so we're going to grab that, cut that, and paste it back here. So let's scoot this up a little bit. Okay, good. Uh-oh. Oh, there were some markers here. Oh, shoot. I shifted it, and I ought not have done that. Now I think there was some silence here.
Science fiction.
Look, there's a lot that's unrealistic about Ender's Game, but we kind of get to that and how it's okay that it's unrealistic.
I really don't see any better out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second.
Okay, so now we need to cut this audio here. It says hang on a second. See where we come back in.
Okay. You know, it became an introduction to his work. And I found it really exciting.
Okay. Now we can chop that section out. We can delete these markers. And let's see if this makes any sense. Okay, no other markers we have to worry about, so we're going to pull this up. See what we're talking about here.
Out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. You know, it became fiction. I writers of the 20th century in science fiction. I really don't see any better out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. You know, it became an
Okay, so there's a hang on one sec, but I think I want to extend that silence just a little bit so it's kind of clear that shifting gears a little bit. Maybe if you're gonna do an edit like this, it's okay to make it obvious.
any better out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. You know, it became an introduction to his work. And
Okay, that's a little better. I might even extend that just a little.
out there.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. You know, it became an introduction to his.
Okay, that'll do. So now we'll stitch those together. And let's see. Now I've got the main body of the episode ready to go. I've got his track at the right volume. I've got that gap taken care of. And I've got our quote up front. So, next thing is to pull in the theme music and whatnot. So, I'm going to shift over to my other camera. So, while I'm doing that, if you guys have any other questions or comments about Ender's Game, hit me up while I'm pulling up this music. Let's see. Holocron. I've got 5 hard drives plugged into this computer, and it's always a challenge to remember which one I'm supposed to be working with. Let's see. We really need a new intro for the Author's Shelf series, but I'm not going to do that tonight. Okay, so we've got the intro, outro. That should be good, actually. That should be all that we need. So, let's go back to our screen here. Now that I've got the intro and outro, only 5. Yeah, only 5. It's, so, I've got the computer itself, and that's got 2 hard drives, the solid state that I work on, and then a 6 terabyte storage drive that I store everything on. And then I have specific backup hard drives for the Legendarium, one for another podcast that I do weekly, and then one for personal use, family stuff, old photos, that sort of thing. So yeah, 5. So I do 2 backups of every episode that we do, just in case. Okay, so here's our intro and outro. First thing I'm going to do is cut this and move the outro. Outro over. Move this into position-ish. Okay, before we do that, let's mute this and listen to this track.
The idea that you could talk to people intelligently on the internet and actually change the world. I don't know. It just seems so, pre 2016 or something.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
Okay, so that's good enough. But we're going to pull his volume up just a little to make sure he doesn't get drowned out by the music. Pull him up even more.
The idea that you could...
All right, now mute that, and let's make sure we've got it in a good position.
The Legendarium podcast is brought to you
by you. So please visit patreon.com/legendarium
to support the show. But for now,
welcome to the Legendarium.
If nothing else, I need to re-record that because I hate the way that I delivered my line.
The idea...
Okay. I'm going to pull this volume down. That's...
The idea that you could talk to people intelligently on the internet and actually change the world.
The theme music is always loud. Interesting. What makes you think of the travel hotel montage from Fight Club? The novel about a preteen space general fighting a bug war? Because I wouldn't have thought so.
I don't know. It just seems so, pre 2016 or something.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
All right, so there's our end.
Pre-Twitter, yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Okay, the whole Locke Demosthenes dynamic is pretty far-fetched now, says Alex. In what way? I'm curious to know what you mean by that, because I'm not so sure. So tell me what you mean by that while I keep working on this. I'm not sure that I would call it far-fetched. Maybe as written, but the idea of it, I think, isn't so crazy. Okay. All right, while I do that, while you do that, let's put this end over. Zoom in. 2 anonymous accounts becoming leaders of the world. I don't know, man. This doesn't seem crazy to me after and look, this isn't I'm doing my very best not to reveal any partisan affiliation here, because I have none, frankly. But after electing a game show host president of the United States, I don't find it quite so far-fetched that an anonymous Twitter account could gain such a following that they could do something with that. I'm gonna move myself up. I just realized I'm stuck on the logo. I'm stuck behind the logo. So my face is very important, obviously. Okay. All right. If he'd add a face to it, I'd believe it. Maybe. I mean, but again, this is written in the 80s, and he could see a little bit into the future, with the internet, but he couldn't see that far into the future. So, cut him a little slack there. Okay, let's find out where our end music starts. Let's see. So, Bob, you're saying that the music was too loud. Is it always the intro or the outro or both? There it is. All right.
You next time.
There we go. Go back here some ways. Let's see. Alex, I'm still impressed by his immersive gaming and AI work. In Ender's Game, you mean? Yeah. Well, hang on. Maybe I'll come to that. Imagine Drill becoming a senator. So then that's exactly the kind of thing. Do you have any trouble believing that presumably guy could, if he came out public and said, "Here's who I am. I've been running this Twitter account forever. Vote for me because, I will nuke the whole thing. That's what I do." Or like, vote for me as a joke. Like, people would vote. It would be a thing for sure.
When and whether to read the sequels, hit up patreon.com/legendarium to support the show. Thank you so much for reading and listening along with us, everybody, and we will see you next time.
So the other thing I have to do, this is a weird trick if anybody ever uses an editing software like this. You'll see that there's a bunch of extra empty space here on the end. That's from where I trimmed down the episode before I started editing. If I leave that there, then your podcatcher will say that this episode is 59 minutes and 20 seconds. But it will stop playing here at 57:15 or whatever. And so I just have to hit this, zoom out full, gets rid of that extra tail on the end. And now we have ourselves an episode. Let's save that. Okay. Now then, we've got our metadata, the episode. I think we're good to go. Export this. That's the other podcast. Now it has to actually access that freaking hard drive. All right, there we go. So we're going down all the way here to, 235. I guess I put that in the wrong place. Go get 235 again. Game MP3. You don't need 192 kilobits per second, so 96 will do fine. There we go. Export. Here we go. Both, Bob. Yeah, how bad is it? I wonder. I've listened to podcasts where I know what you're talking about. In fact, the other one that I run, I do bring the music down a little bit more than I might normally be inclined to, but I haven't noticed it being too bad on this. But if anybody else feels that way, let me know. Put it up in the comments. Okay, so we've got our episode now. Next thing is we're going to upload this episode right here. Oh, yeah, before we do that, oh gosh. We need to create some episode art. So what I did was, so I've got a lot of, old episode art and stuff on here. So I grabbed the last Author's Shelf one that we did. That was the Andrew Clavin episode. That was an adventure. Get rid of that art. Pull up this one. I like doing it this way. I'll just search Ender's Game cover art. And, this cover is a really popular one. Everybody kind of knows this paperback. And so if I can find a version of that without the title, so that, it doesn't interfere with the words that I'm putting on there, that's what I like to find. So there's that one. I pulled that one into here. Let's blow it way the heck up. This is not the one that you will normally see. This will be the featured artwork on our website. That ship in there. Okay, that should do. Got a little filter on there to keep it dark so that the white text comes out. This is 236. Ender's Game. I know the cover, but it never made sense to me. It doesn't describe anything from the book. I know what you mean. I actually kind of prefer that. I remember talking about this a lot with our Wheel of Time episodes. It drives me a little bit crazy to have spoilers on the cover, especially for a series like the Wheel of Time, but this could go for any book, where I prefer a cover that's going to evoke something. And so in this case, it's like spaceships and starfighters and all that stuff. And so, okay, great, now I'm in, but that doesn't tell me anything about the book specifically, which I prefer. And so, yeah, Chris says it's a carrier ship launching a fighter. That's what I mentally filled in. Yeah, exactly. I think that is perfectly accurate. And so, yeah, with the Wheel of Time spoilers for, well, no, not really spoilers for the Wheel of Time, but there's, no, book, is it 13? That massively spoils something that happens to the main character several books earlier, one book earlier, I can't remember. Anyway, that sort of thing drives me a little crazy. Cosmere Podcast made a comment that I had to approve. You know what, Alex? Let it go, man. Let it go. It's okay. Okay, 236, Ender's Game, Author's Shelf. In this case, it is David Farland. I think you guys are going to like this episode. It was really fun. Okay. So this is our social version. This is what comes up. Like if you link to our website, and you share the episode from our website, this is what would appear on Twitter, on Facebook, on wherever, is this artwork. Okay. Hey, Seth. Welcome. It's all right. You missed the audio editing, but now we're doing the upload. So I think there's still some fun to be had for a few more minutes. Okay, we're going to do roughly the same thing here. Get rid of the old art. Out with the old, in with new. There we go. Nice. Now it gets the planet in there as well, which will be even more recognizable. This is what will appear on your podcatcher. Let's see. Okay. Oh, come on. Yes. That looks all right. And if I don't change the name on the file, then Podbean, like if I just said episode art as the file name, then it would change the episode art for every episode every time I uploaded a new one. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Seth, this episode is dropping tomorrow. Yeah, the whole Professor Craig thing. I hope people like that. It's just, it's a little bit different. Anytime we do a Tolkien thing, it's going to be a little bit different because I've spent so much of my life learning all these tiny little tidbits that I have those either at my fingertips or I know where to go find them to put them at my fingertips. And so we don't have that sort of familiarity when we're reading Wheel of Time or Cosmere or Rothfuss or anybody else, really. And so those episodes are a lot more, hey, we're just like you, we're reading the book, we're kind of fumbling through all this, and the Tolkien stuff is much more like, this is my thing, this is my jam, I want to talk about the details and all that stuff. And so I hope people like it. It is definitely different. Alex, I can think of an out of context Bonzo scene that would landed in the romance section. I don't. I guess I don't remember. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, and I'm not necessarily asking. Let's see. Okay. I guess you guys like Professor Craig. Chris, confession: I haven't actually watched or listened to any episodes. Oh no. That's actually remarkable that you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm confused, but I'm glad. After hanging out on Discord, after finding it on Twitter, so this is the first time I've heard your voice. Well, that's great. If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to reveal this, but what's your Discord handle? I'm curious who you are. Let's see. Cosmere Podcast. One of my favorite genres of Twitter is learning esoteric stuff about a job I will never have. Professor Craig is the same feel. That's great. Let's get back to doing this. Colonel Rabbit. Oh, yeah. You've been around for a little while now, so that's great. Glad that you're here. Let's see. I have downloaded both of those artworks, so good on that. Oh, one more thing we have to do. We need to pull up the Square version that we just made. And I'm going to open that with a program called Paint.net. This is like, it's like Photoshop, but Photoshop Lite. It's kind of the Audacity is to Audition what this is to Photoshop. But the reason I have it is for how remarkably easy it is to compress an image. And I'm done. Okay, now we can load up the episode. So this is number 236. Okay. All right. Oh, you guys are all becoming Discord, YouTube friends. That's great. Let's see. I knew that you're Kiptan. I knew that you're Lammy Lambs. Let's see, Cosmere Podcast. Before you started doing a podcast, did you realize how many different things you'd need to become proficient at? No, I didn't. But it's been really interesting because when I started the podcast, I worked in banking. I worked at a Chase Bank in downtown Salt Lake City, and for what it was a fine job. I don't I don't have anything against working in a bank per se, but it definitely was not my bag. And so I started looking around at other things. Actually, if you guys remember, this is a Legendarium deep cut, so I apologize for that. But there's an episode on horror movies, I believe it was, and we had a guest by the name of Ashley Walton. And Ashley Walton, she was a customer of mine at the bank, believe it or not. She comes into the bank, and I can't remember what I did for her. Probably reversing a fee or opening an account or something like that. But she was there with her husband, and I looked down at her socks. She had the full thigh high socks things, but they were Batman themed socks, and I was like, that's fantastic. And she's like, if you like that, you love this. And she pulls something else out of her bag that was super nerdy, and I was like, you and I ought to be friends, And so we got to talking, and she agreed to come on the show. So she came on the show, we became Facebook friends, and it turned out that she was the hiring manager at the company that I now work at. And when I interviewed there as a copywriter, I had worked in a bank. It's like, oh, you want to be a copywriter? What have you done? What do you know about marketing? Well, I'd been working on this for like a year and a half, 2 years probably, by the time that rolled around. And so I was able to pull up the website and show here are all the things I'm proficient at. I've been doing a lot of, freelance work on the side as well as the podcast. And anyway, so the podcast opened doors for me that otherwise wouldn't have been opened. And so it's been difficult, and I've had to learn a ton of stuff, but has it been worth it? I think it's been worth it. So let's get back to this. Now, if you're asking if I'm now proficient at graphic design, I am not. You've seen our episode artwork now. It's not great. Okay. Oh. Let's see. Reach the level of good enough. That's all that I aspire to be in just about any area of my life. So. Let's see. Okay, what do we want to say about this episode? Okay. Okay. So now that we've got a little episode description in there, I'm going to go back here, pull in these links, the normal links, throw them in, but I'm also going to go to davidfarland.com. Let's do it this way. You know what? I called him Dave. Okay. Check out Dave's site and sign up for his new. If you guys, by the way, if you're interested in, fantasy stuff and writing tips and whatnot, you should probably check out his newsletter. He's the real deal. If you didn't know, David Farland, who also goes by David Wolverton, he has mentored a lot of fantasy writers, including one Brandon Sanderson. So you have him to thank, at least in some measure, for Sanderson if you like him. Chris, you're off for dinner. Yes, please listen to some episodes. That would be much appreciated. But I'm just glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one. All right, so we've got our description. This is an author's shelf, so we'll tag that appropriately. This will automatically post to YouTube. And interestingly, even though we've gotten written permission to use this music, the current theme music, it gets tagged on YouTube every time. And I'm about ready to write a very lawyerly letter about it to whoever keeps hitting it. Okay. So, I think we're ready to publish. Am I forgetting anything? Everything's spelled correctly? Okay, that should do it. Publish. And you should all see this episode hitting your podcatchers in, anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour from now. So enjoy that. Now let's get back here, and I'll walk through the last things that we do now that it's published. Show up here. There we go. So it is now in the RSS feed. Let's go to website. Next step is to post it on the website. We're getting pretty close. This should be just a few more minutes. Yes, Dave Wolverton and Dave Farland are the same person. I believe he uses Wolverton as more of his sci-fi writing name, and then Farland would be the fantasy side, the Rune Lords side of things. By the way, you like this traffic spike? That's when I appeared on Daniel Green's channel earlier this week. Got a lot of traffic from that. That was pretty cool. Okay. So I'm going to pull an old episode. And the name from Star Wars. You'll have to refresh my memory. Okay, so grab this block of code and we're done there. That. I know if you're a developer, you're yelling at me about using iframes, but you know what we have to work with right now. I don't apologize. Okay. Actually, I do want to go back to David Farland. Oh, the courtship of Princess. Was that really him? Vinny's father? Princess Leia. Dave Wolverton. Holy. Wow. I didn't realize that I had read any of his other books. Yeah, I read that a long time ago when I was a kid. I probably read that when I was 11 or 12. So I don't recall the story at all. I recall liking it, but that's wild. I didn't realize that when I talked to him. When I did get him on the podcast, and you guys will hear this when you listen to it, but the thing I was most excited about was that he is the creator of the Lurker on StarCraft Brood War, which I thought was just too cool to pass up, so I had to bug him about that and ask him a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to snag his photo. Great. So, I'm going to replace Andrew Clavin. Dave Farland, whatever. Okay. I've never really understood post-roll ads who would stay just listen to an ad. What you're discounting is the people who just leave it rolling. You know, somebody who they listen to podcasts at work, and so they just keep their phone in their pocket. And so it's probably people like that where, you know, it's not worth it to, you know, to get my phone out of my pocket just for those 30 seconds. So, replace. Or, so I guess me. Yeah, well. Let's see. Good. But I mean, I get it, Bob. I'm not an ad listener. I'm usually listening in my car, and I've got it hooked up via Bluetooth, so I just have to hit a button on my dash and skip 30 seconds, and so I tend not to listen to ads. With our podcast, it's big enough to attract those random sponsors that would sign up for these spots, but it's not big enough to really attract the ones that would want to do pre and post roll ads. And so that's why you don't really hear those. I leave them open just in case, but I took away the mid-roll ones after there were a couple. There was like an episode or two where they came in and it was kind of distracting, so I took those out. Anyway, let's see. I think we're good here. We just need to set our featured image. You guys are distracting me so much that this is taking me twice as long, but I knew that was going to happen. It's no problem. Okay. Ender's Game. Like I said earlier, this is what would appear if you shared this page on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. But don't display this on a single post. That means it won't show up at the top. You're still going to get this, and so I figure that's plenty of artwork on the page. Author shelf. Sewed. That should be enough tags for now. Title. Oh, we don't want that. There we go. All right. Finish that. Skits for the ads, huh? Post. Okay. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to go into Patreon. I think. Just out of curiosity, raise of hands, is anybody watching right now a patron? Because I would like very much to thank you. I'm not good at Patreon. Like I don't do a lot of the Patreon exclusives and that sort of thing as much as I once did anyway. But you know, there's a part of me that's like, look, it takes quite a lot of time already just to make the freaking episodes, and so I don't. Patreon's always bugging me about, hey, create some exclusive content. It's gotten away from me. So I've been talking to Ryan about maybe having him take over Patreon, as you know, just to create some original stuff for that to make it more exciting for you guys. Seth, look, I can be a sarcastic SOB, but a lowly $1 patron isn't a thing. That's not a thing. Anybody who's willing to chip in $1 or more for our episodes is amazing in my book. I don't understand quite what we've done to deserve it, so I truly appreciate it. Okay, so at least Seth will be getting an email here soon that's been published. Go ahead and throw it on Reddit. You guys can go. Our Reddit. What am I trying to say? The Reddit interaction seems like it's died down a little bit since we started Discord. Discord's interesting because it is so real time. Obviously, it's a live chat that people can go check out. But I gotta say, I liked it when we had episodes with 30, 40, 50 comment threads after the episode. Those are great. I miss those days, but what is dead may never die, I suppose. What I ought to do is give these better titles. Oops. Yeah, we'll just leave it there. Let's see. Just got your email? Good. Well, I'm glad to see it came through. Let's see. Post that. And that's pretty much it. So I will, I might post this I will post it on Twitter tomorrow. I'll post it on Discord. People can chat about it on Discord, of course. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else. I should put it on Facebook. I just tend not to because does anybody use Facebook anymore? Is that even a thing these days? I'm not so sure. But, well, whatever. So, I think that should do it. And now, maybe a few comments will start rolling in tonight and tomorrow. But there you go. There's an episode about 3 hours earlier than I usually do it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to do here tonight before I end the stream. Do you guys have any other questions? Do you want to watch me while I get my ass kicked in StarCraft tonight? Because that's probably what I'm doing after this. Let's see. See how we're looking this month. The lucky few who actually join in on the live stream get to see what our download count is. So on most episodes, like this one, The Hobbit, most of the time they reach about 3,000 in the first 30 days. But then they have incredibly long legs. And so our episodes tend to keep getting hit after hit after hit because they're so evergreen. We try to keep it relatively evergreen. We often have a few minutes of housekeeping or whatever up top, but we try not to make it so that you have to follow week after week after week. And so, people are constantly clicking on all these different older episodes and listening to those. The most downloaded episode is Lord of the Rings 1. So it's episode number 2. Birthday Parties and Birthday Presents. It has been downloaded 11,000 times. So this one, let's see, this month I'm counting on, we got another 3 days. So with this episode coming out, that'll jolt it a couple thousand extra. So I bet we'll end around 29,000, maybe close up on that 30,000 line. Eye of the World, Way of Kings, Mistborn, these are our most popular episodes by far. So there we go. Bet that'll look pretty good by the end of the month. This is funny because we're 53 minutes into this stream. Oh wait, you guys couldn't even see that. Sorry about that. Here's the episode, or this is per month, the trend line. So this month, with a few more days, this will jump up quite a bit after the new episode publishes. Mondays and Tuesdays are always big download days. So that'll jump up close to 29 or 30. Here's the list if you want to look at that. These are our top 10 most popular all time. This was it. Oh no, we need to get Oathbringer up in this list. The Oathbringer episodes I thought were really, really good. Anyway, I was going to say it's funny that we had 10 people for a moment. We had 10 people. I think that's the highest we've had for this whole stream, and it's almost an hour into it. Okay. Trying to decide. I think I'd probably better go hang out with my wife for a little while, because after I'm done with this, I think we're gonna finish watching Veronica Mars, and then maybe I'll come back and play StarCraft. If I do some StarCraft streams, though, maybe I'll let you guys know about that, and we can do that on a different night. Okay. Done. All right, let's call it there, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. This was a real pleasure for me. I enjoy interacting with you guys live. And for 5 years or so, I've had a pretty thick curtain over what we do on the podcast, and so I'm trying little by little to peel that back a little bit. So if you care, that's great, and I hope you appreciate it. If you don't care, then you don't have to learn about it, I guess. No big loss there. So let me know by email or by chat or by Twitter or whatever if there's anything else that you'd like to see, how-tos and whatnot, and I will try to make that happen for you. So I'm just waiting to see if any last questions roll in. Hope you have a good night. Glad these are becoming a thing. Me too. I hope it becomes more and more of a thing. Maybe I'll make this a tradition where if we can't live stream the episode recording, which will be the case pretty much any time we have guests Skyping in, like we did with Dave, then I'll just hop on and do this editing process. This took about an hour. Normally it would take me about 30 minutes tops. Maybe next time I'll show you all the hardware that I bought so that I wouldn't have to sit here and edit all night. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for listening. I'm off to finish Veronica Mars tonight. Hope it's awesome. And I'll see you on the next live stream. Peace.